Good afternoon, and it's a pleasure to be here, and it's my privilege to represent the Department of Justice and the National Security Division. As the head of the National Security Division, my job is to carry out the department's highest priority, and that is combating threats to our national security. I lead more than 350 professionals dedicated to that mission who work tirelessly to overcome great challenges and to keep our nation safe. Whether the threats come from foreign terrorists and spies or cyber intrusions by nation-state actors, we use the whole-of-government approach to disrupt threats to our national security. Our approach reflects a philosophy that our national security priorities must include the physical safety of all Americans, but also the nation's economic security by helping our nation's companies and other institutions defend against corrupt insiders, hackers, and others. The National Security Division traces its roots to the attacks of 9/11. That attack was a watershed moment in our approach to countering terrorism as a government. It spurred the government to recognize that if we are to defend against this threat, we must bring to bear the full complement of the federal government's resources. Before we could integrate our efforts, we had to bring down the wall that previously existed between the intelligence community and law enforcement, a wall that stood firmly in the Department of Justice, where some attorneys prosecuted national security crimes and others interfaced with the intelligence community, always within separate offices. To end that divide, Congress in 2006 created the department's first new litigating division in almost half a century, the National Security Division. As a division, we unite the prosecutors and law enforcement officials with our intelligence attorneys and the intelligence community to ensure that we approach national security threats using every tool and resource available to the federal government. Since the National Security Division's creation, it has become increasingly clear that the factors that motivated our creation and guided our efforts to combat terrorism are equally applicable to our efforts to protect our valuable national assets. These assets, many of which are in private sector hands, include our critical infrastructure, the telecommunications systems, financial systems, electric grids, and mass transit systems that sustain our way of life, as well as the technology, innovations, and other crown jewels that drive our economy and help secure our global leadership. In recent years, we have seen more attempts by foreign nation-states and those acting on their behalf to acquire sensitive technologies and proprietary information from U.S. companies and to disrupt and destroy our critical infrastructure. The federal government has developed a broad-ranging suite of tools to tackle these threats, including criminal prosecutions, sanctions, trade pressure, diplomatic options, and technical operations. And together with our interagency partners, we have the ability to pick the best tool or combination of tools to get the job done under the rule of law. For example, we seek to mitigate national security threats posed by foreign nation-state actors by reviewing foreign acquisitions through the CFIUS process, which can help us make sure the acquiring company, if it does have access to critical technologies, and increase and mitigate any risk, or if it attempts to increase its reach within the United States, and by also imposing export controls on U.S. businesses to protect sensitive technologies from reaching the wrong hands. We also investigate and prosecute cases involving the theft of sensitive and valuable intellectual properties, which poses a significant threat to national security and major business risks to the victim companies. Perhaps the most salient form for this audience is theft by cyber intrusion. In May of 2014, in a first-of-its-kind case, the Department of Justice indicted 5 Chinese military hackers for stealing trade secrets and sensitive business information, such as pricing information, trade litigation strategy from American nuclear power, metals, and solar products companies for the benefit of Chinese competitors. And just this past March, we indicted 4 individuals responsible for the 2014 hack into Yahoo's network, which resulted in the theft of information of about 500 million Yahoo accounts and the use of that information to obtain contents of other accounts at Yahoo and other email providers. 2 of the named defendants are officers in the Russian Federal Security Service, or FSB, who are alleged to have directed their co-conspirators, 2 criminal hackers, to collect information through computer intrusions in the United States and elsewhere. And making this conduct all the more egregious, the FSB unit that the defendants worked for was the FBI's point of contact in Moscow for cybercrime-related matters. Lest you think we will never be able to bring these foreign hackers to justice, one of the alleged co-conspirators, Karim Baratov, was arrested in Canada on a U.S. provisional arrest warrant, and in August of this year, he waived extradition and was brought to the United States to face charges. The threat to U.S. businesses and our national security is broader than the theft of information. State-sponsored actors also exploit vulnerabilities in cybersecurity for destruction and malicious purposes, as we have seen time and time again. In 2014, Sony Pictures was hacked. We saw North Korea wage an attack intended to chill the speech of U.S. citizens and Sony in the U.S. hack. The attackers destroyed computer systems, stole vulnerable information, and released confidential and somewhat embarrassing emails of corporate data and intellectual property at significant cost, and also threatened employees and customers. The U.S. government added new sanctions against North Korea for these activities. In March of 2016, the Department of Justice unsealed an indictment charging 7 hackers with ties to the Iranian government for extensive distributed denial of service attacks against 44 major financial institutions in 2011 and 2012 that cut the customers off from their online access to their bank accounts and cost the victim companies tens of millions of dollars. One of the Iranian hackers was also charged with obtaining unauthorized access to the industrial control system of a New York dam. Had the dam not been offline for maintenance, the intrusion could have given the hacker control of the dam's water levels and flow rates. For many years, when acting in cyberspace, nation-states and their affiliates enjoyed what they perceived to be a cloak of anonymity, a cloak that they hid behind to break our laws and threaten our security and our economic well-being. But in responding to the cyber threat posed by state-sponsored actors, the government has recognized the importance of attribution to name those responsible with confidence down to the country, the government agency, the organization, or even the individuals involved. Public attribution alone can have an important deterrent effect, creating a risk of detention or arrest abroad, restricting liberty and travel, and perhaps more importantly, hackers, like other thieves, are valued for their ability to get in and out without getting caught. Public attribution can chill the marketplace for their services. In addition to potential prosecution, attribution facilitates the use of other tools that promote deterrence. A 2015 executive order provides the Treasury Department with the authority to sanction individuals or entities who use cyber operations to harm companies or compromise critical infrastructure or networks, steal information for commercial advantage or private financial gain, or merely benefit from knowingly receiving such stolen information. That tool has proved useful in forging diplomatic solutions. Numerous cybersecurity experts agree that our indictment of the Chinese military hackers, coupled with the threat of possible U.S. sanctions, resulted in an historic agreement with the Chinese and other leaders of the G20 in 2015 that nations should not conduct or support cyber-enabled theft of trade secrets or confidential information with the intent to provide commercial advantage to companies or commercial entities. We have shown time and again that we can stay ahead of the evolving national security threat and bring to justice those who threaten our security, whether they are terrorists, spies, or nation-state hackers. At NSD, we continue to work every day to keep our nation safe from all manner of threats. But when it comes to many of the threats facing our country, the private sector is frequently on the front lines. You may be the first to identify the insider threat, the cyber intrusion, or other illegal activities. Our foreign adversaries have the full backing of their government, and you should have the full backing of yours. NSD and the Federal Bureau of Investigation stand ready to help you understand the vulnerabilities that might exist in your organization, how to minimize them, and how to respond when those vulnerabilities lead to the wrongful theft, exfiltration, or exportation of your sensitive technologies and information. We can warn companies that manufacture or sell targeted U.S. technology when certain actors are seeking the particular technology they make. In the case of a cyber attack, if an organization works with law enforcement, it puts both in the best possible position to find out exactly what happened and to remediate or prevent further damage. Law enforcement also may be able to bring legal authorities and tools that are unavailable to non-government entities or enlist the assistance of international partners to locate and take down stolen data and identify a perpetrator. We have spent significant time and energy in face-to-face sit-down meetings across all industry sectors so that we may better understand the concerns and challenges that industry faces and share guidance and information and assist with protection, detection, attribution, and response. Our nation is most secure, and our privacy and economic vitality are best protected when the government and the private sector work together to develop strategies to detect threats, protect our national assets, and respond when incidents do happen. Again, I want to thank you for inviting me here today.